The review had nothing in it to address the worsening plight of Ghanaians.
Well, I thought that something positive will come out for the ordinary worker. People are complaining. Whilst you are giving us an average inflation, the truth is that real goods and services, in terms of what affect the ordinary Ghanaian, is skyrocketing.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Gas and Cement, the nation builder. Is also brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. In the last couple of hours, the finance minister has been delivering a special message from the president to all young, struggling and unemployed Ghanaians. He's declared the government will create 1 million jobs in 3 years for the youth.
I have had extensive discussions with my colleague ministers of employment and labor relations, youth and sports, and lands and natural resources. New programs will be introduced and existing ones scaled up and refocused to meet the aspirations of our youth. We will work together to sensitize and connect the youth to the numerous opportunities being made available by government, including a strategy to create jobs and business opportunities for 1 million Ghanaian youth by 2024. So far, we've developed 5 new programs, including an exciting Youth Bank program. Mr. Speaker, the Enterprise and Youth Support Fund, which aligns with government's overall strategy of developing a competitive and viable private sector economy, will set up a youth bank with the aim of financing youth-led startup businesses across the country. As part of this initiative, an online investment hub will be established for youth across the country to access information for the purpose of establishing businesses. It is estimated over 100,000 jobs will be created through this. Mr. Speaker, the Venture Fund Trust, which is being revamped to be better positioned to carry out the designated activities, also as a fund manager. Mr. Speaker, we are also pursuing the Obatampa Youth Entrepreneurship Drive, Ghana Skills and Entrepreneurship Development Project, Student Entrepreneurship Initiative, the Youth in Community Improvement Model, and the Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program as direct interventions in targeted sectors to help our youth live decent lives and contribute to nation building. These interventions are clearly designed to bring us closer to confronting the jobs and employment challenges of our youth. To ensure dedicated resources, the Ministry of Finance and all participating institutions will next month sign an implementation compact on youth employment, which will tie release of resources to delivery of results. This compact will also track youth-focused initiatives across the value chain of interventions under the Ghana Cares program.
Well, yesterday we heard from the aggrieved public sector workers union, a section of labor unhappy with the recently negotiated minimum wage, and they've talked about the challenges generally in this economy. Today, the finance minister was emphatic the government had managed the economy in a way that has improved the lot of workers, but also government has kept faith with workers' salaries, and of course pointing to the negotiations over the minimum wages, an indicator of government's commitment to workers.
With these approvals, we intervened with timely measures to help, particularly households, schools, hospitals, and businesses, withstand the impact of the pandemic. Government provided direct transfers to households through food distribution and absorption of water and electricity bills. Tax waivers to frontline health workers and stimulus packages to small and medium-scale enterprises were also provided. Mr. Speaker, these interventions stabilized the situation, protected lives, supported businesses, and preserved jobs, which would otherwise have been lost. In fact, although the workload from the public sector had to be reduced in many cases, all through the COVID crisis, government has never once embarked on any program of laying off workers. Rather, we have continued to pay all workers, even proceeded to employ more in some critical areas such as and health services. Mr. Speaker, let me use this opportunity to thank organized labor and employers for their role in concluding wage negotiations with government in May. The negotiations were marked by a shared understanding of the state of the economy, that we as a nation cannot share what we do not have, a collective will to improve productivity.
Well, traditionally, the mid-year budget review has always, most often than not, been used by finance ministers to request for more money to spend. Well, today, Ken Ofori-Atta took time to emphasize that he didn't come before Parliament to ask for more money or to introduce more taxes.
That notwithstanding our elevated debt levels as a result of COVID-19, our inflation rate is lower than it was in 2016. Our interest rates are lower than they were in 2016. Our exchange rate is more stable than it was in 2016. Our foreign exchange reserves are much higher than they were in 2016. And we did not have to lay off any workers, nor cancel teacher and nursing training allowances. Furthermore, we did not go to the IMF for a bailout program, neither have we built an interchange for the price of 3. This is because we have managed the economy much better than it was managed up to 2016. Let us, Mr. Speaker, not forget this. Mr. Speaker, the strong rebounding growth, the low inflation rates, the stable currency, the strong reserve position, and FDI flows are clear indicators of an economy in recovery. Mr. Speaker, I stand before this august House today to assure the nation that our transformation agenda is very much on course. Mr. Speaker, this mid-year fiscal policy review that I'm presenting does not come with a supplementary budget, and our revised fiscal framework for 2021 is kept within the fiscal target of 9.5% of GDP. We are staying within the 2021 appropriation. Respectful Mr. Speaker, let me repeat, I'm not here today to ask for more money. I have not come Mr. Speaker, I'm not here today to ask for more money. I have not come to ask for more taxes. I have come to update the House on the performance of the economy for the first half year of 2021 and our plans for the unexpired term of the year consistent with Section 28 of the PFM Act.
I want to bring in now the ranking member on the Finance Committee in Parliament. He's also a former Deputy Finance Minister, Dr. Kaisel Atofosing. Also joining me is the MPP member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Stephen Amwa. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time here on Top Story. Dr. Forsing, even you must applaud the Finance Minister. In the midst of COVID and a general struggling of the economy, he comes to the floor of Parliament to present a mid-year budget review and says, I don't need more money. I'm not going to tax anybody. I'm just going to stay within my means.
Evans? Hello?
Yes, Dr. Forsing.
Yes. Evans, let me put it this way. Yes, the minister may not have asked for more money, but I can assure you that by the end of the year, he will take more. I say this
why
because,
are you so certain of that?
Yes, I say this because, for instance, in the year 2020, as part of the supplementary appropriations, what he asked for, he ended up taking more than what was approved for him. So for me, this doesn't excite me. Him not asking for money does not mean he will not take more. He's certainly going to take more, and clearly the signs are there. I sit in Parliament, I see the expenditures, how they are going, and I can see a possible expenditure overrun. So
how
it doesn't
how can he
excite
take
me.
more without parliamentary approval? Only Parliament can approve and give him the opportunity.
And that is why I've given you an example. In the year 2020, he exceeded the Appropriations Act. He exceeded the Appropriations Act. In fact, if you can check from the Auditor General's report, almost single MDA exceeded what was approved for them by Parliament. We are yet to go into the details, and I'm sure very soon Parliament will start, coming out with sanctions. But clearly, we've seen it before. We're just coming out of it. He has come to Parliament, he's asked for money. He has ended up spending more than he's been approved. So I'm not surprised. Whatever he said, yes, he can say it, that I'm not coming for money. But I can assure you, by 6 months down the line, next year around February, March, the phone numbers will be out, and you won't be surprised that he has exceeded the Appropriations Act.
I mean, Dr. Stephen Amwa, so why is, and if you're taking what Dr. Forsing is saying, why is the finance minister, when he's actually allowed to ask for more money, not doing so in the midst of all the challenges we know the economy is going through, and insisting he will stay within his means when consistently he's failed to do so in previous years?
Evans, thank you. My regards to our listeners this evening. I think the adverb consistently, we should look at, that means he's been doing that year after year. But even Dr. Ato Forson, Honorable, my friend, my greetings to you, he even stated the year 2020. I'm being very honest with you. He is being in Parliament more than I do. But what I can say is that if even that happened, I'm not a legal practitioner, but Evans, the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921, Section 18, stipulates three conditions, or makes emphasis on three conditions, under which even our fiscal rules and policies must be or should be suspended. One, when there is war. Two, when there's a natural disaster. I'm not holding it, but maybe I hope I'm doing the right thing. Thirdly, when there's health epidemic. These are emphatic statements or extracts from our Public Financial Administrative Act. So normally he even teases me. This is the 2020 issue. Even up to now, we have an outlier situation. So you couldn't have, or one couldn't have actually analyzed these things within the fiscal context or rules and policies that as a country we do either by law or by even convention. So I am surprised that my honorable brother, doctor, knows all these things and he's trying to hide these facts somewhere and portray like we are actually going against the fact that Parliament hadn't approved and that we're spending. I mean, he has more experience in Parliament than I do. He can explain this war if what I'm saying doesn't make sense financially or legally. I think it is a convention that we need to analyze from a different perspective because there is a situation that even the PFM Act gives us these windows or space to operate. It's different from even going forward.
Dr. Amwa,
the situation normalizes.
Dr. Amwa, stay with me.
I don't think what he's saying is right.
Yeah.
Dr. Foster.
Evans, I disagree with what Stephen, my friend, is saying. I say this, Evans, because suspension of fiscal rules has nothing to do with you breaching the Appropriations Act. Government of Ghana enacted a law called the Fiscal Responsibilities Act. And in that law, there is a ceiling in which you can go. And that ceiling is that you cannot exceed the fiscal deficit more than 2 percentage points above 5%. And there's a sanction that anytime you achieve more than 2% more than the 5%, the minister will be subject to censure, a vote of censure. So the suspension of the fiscal rules relates to that. The minister responsible for finance had an option. In fact, he had a chance to have come to Parliament and asked for a supplementary Appropriations Act, so that the bill that would have been submitted to Parliament, he can stay within it. But in spite of that, he came, we approved, and he went overboard and spent additional 9.5 billion Ghana cedis in excess of what Parliament has approved for him. About $1.5 billion additional. And he's telling me today that he has come to Parliament, that he's not coming to seek for money, so I should be happy. I can't be happy. This is the same person who not long ago, a year around this time, he had come to us, said to all of us that obviously he's not asking for supplementary appropriations. And then in the end, he ended up spending in excess of what we have approved for him, 9.5 billion Ghana cedis, about $1.5 billion.
I mean,
so what is it telling us? Evans, on the back of that, look at the revenues. The revenues are underperforming. In fact, the revenues was projected to have performed 7.5% of GDP as of June 2021. The outturn is that they have performed 6.5% of GDP. You have a revenue gap of 1% of GDP. I would have thought that the minister responsible for finance in appearing before us today would have revised the revenue downwards, at least a minimum 1 percentage point of GDP. What did he do? He revised it downward by 0.2% of GDP. Negligible. So I won't be surprised that we'll end up coming back next year by this time and then seeing all of these fiscal indicators that he has today pointed to all of us. We'll miss all of them. I won't be surprised that we are going to miss all of them, including the Appropriations Act. I won't be surprised.
Dr. Amwa, was it prudent for the for the finance minister to not ask for more when he is allowed to do so, especially within this current difficult economic times? Was he being populist?
Evans, I think my friend Dr. in my opinion, he's been contradicting himself because he's trying to say that we could have come and asked for more, and at the same time, he's asking that we should have revised even our whatever target downwards because of the space that he was talking about. But Evans, let's analyze this thing, holistically and constructively without doing politics. We have a crisis that led to our productivity being almost on hold for a long time. Activities being very sluggish, open market operations almost getting to zero, and that really affected us uncontrollably, our revenue generation. At the same time, we have to spend, and we know that the revenue arm of our budget and the expenditure arm of our budget need to be managed in terms of the differences to create deficit or surplus. Here is the case that we are getting over 70% debt to GDP, that we ourselves are complaining that we need to manage our debt levels where ensure policy credibility in the area of fiscal space. At the same time, he is saying that we should have rather downsized even our revenue target or whatever we want to, when he knows that the market operations are not even supporting us in terms of generating revenue, and the only option left now, if we even don't manage it, well, we have to go up. I quite remember, I'm not trying to compare, I'm doing trend analysis. Between 2008 and 2016, our brothers, without any COVID issue, without any health crisis, without any global crisis, increased our debt portfolio over 1,140%, from about 9.2, 9.3 to over 120 billion. The fact is that finance and economy, respectfully, because I know Ato is very good, I'm being honest, if he probably is not trying to be intellectually dishonest. One thing that we need to do carefully is to harmonize the key performance indicators of our budget. And these arms are there. And you need to do them pragmatically to ensure that short term you mitigate the impact of the crisis on the people, and also have plans for a long term to ensure sustainability or stability and the resilience that we need of our economy. So there are alternatives, but the best one to take now is to ensure that you mitigate the impact of the hardship. At the same time, you go forward in making sure that you create employment. In the same time, raising standard of living. The same time, making sure that you don't destroy your economy to the extent that one day you may not be able to even go or do anything with your economy and collapse it entirely. That is exactly what the finance minister is doing.
Talking about mitigation.
When we know that will not be prudent policy in managing your fiscal credibility or policy.
Well, we've
totally wrong.
We've had the finance minister today, Dr. Toforsing, announce a 1 million job agenda in the next 3 years. But I've heard you say, Dr. Forsing, and the minority say the budget is empty. But for the young people who listened to him today as he delivered the president's special message, they had 1 million jobs in 3 years. That clearly can be empty, can it?
Okay. Evans, thank you very much. But first, to start with, I have not said on this program that the finance minister could have come and asked for more. In fact, I am not encouraging him to ask for more. That is not my position, and I will explain this further. But to go to your topic, your
about
question,
the jobs, yes.
The ordinary man out there certainly will be interested that jobs obviously are on the way coming. My constituents will be happy. In fact, I will be happy that jobs should come. But you see, when the document fails to tell us how they're going to come, I take it as a mere talk. We've heard it before. Government has said it, that we are going to create jobs through Ghana Cares and all of that. Show me where in the budget, where they've made appropriations, where they've given money to the Ghana Cares, and show me if it's private sector initiative, what have you put out there to be able to generate the jobs?
They are forming a youth bank.
See, I
bank.
did not see anything in the budget that encourages me that 1 million jobs are on the way coming, let's say in this year. There's nothing in the budget it's just a mere talk.
But I heard the creation of what he calls a youth bank.
Yes, so for me, if you mention that, I want to track it to where the money is going to come from. Where the money is going to come from, for me, it's most important. And I'll give you an example. If you look at the expenditure lines so far and what they've done and what they have planned doing, clearly, I have seen some lines of expenditure overperforming. I've seen, compensation, for instance, going to be increased by 1.1 billion Ghana cedis. I've seen goods and services. In fact, goods and services, which is the amount of money they use in running government offices. In the first 6 months of the year, the budget, the program was that they should have done 2.6 billion Ghana cedis. Do you know what they've done? They've done 4.4 billion Ghana cedis. At the time that key sectors of the economy needed money to run, and you are using the money to run the office of the president, office of government machinery, office of, government agencies, goods and services, going up almost twice what was supposed to have been spent. I can see interest payment. The first 6 months, we have spent interest payment about 15 billion Ghana cedis. 15 billion. So if you spend 15 and then you ended up spending approximately 6 billion on capital expenditure, it's more than twice what you spend on goods and on capital expenditure that you will need to pay for your interest. These are things that we should be concerned about. And in the same budget statement, government is saying that they are going to cut items such as Agenda 111 by an amount of 700 million Ghana cedis. In fact, to be precise, it's 697.6 billion Ghana cedis. He's also said in the budget statement that he is cutting expenditure that is supposed to go to coronavirus pandemic eradication, whatever they call it, another 700 million. So the two put together, you are cutting 1.4 billion Ghana cedis. My argument is, you are cutting where you don't have to cut, and you are spending too much on where you don't have to spend. Why should government goods and services expenditure go up within the first 6 months of the year by approximately 2 billion Ghana cedis? It's just too much. And you are programming that going forward, you are spending additional 1 billion above budget on the goods and services expenditure. This is my concern, and I believe that they are legitimate concerns. So clearly, in the budget statement, in the media review that was presented to us today, I do not see hope. In fact, I've said it's hopeless. I've said it's hopeless because I don't see anywhere that this media review address the problems we face as a country. Our debt levels are hitting the ceiling. I thought government would have taken a decision to address the vulnerabilities and the risk that we face. Yet government has failed to address these concerns. And that is why I'm saying this is hopeless. In fact, it's a missed opportunity. I would have thought that they would have taken this wonderful opportunity and addressed the problems we face going forward. Yeah. Yet they've missed it. They have indeed missed it.
Dr. Amwa, how is government going to create these 1 million jobs? Do you know?
Thank you very much. One thing that our brothers keep on failing to realize is that we are a capitalist fraternity. And our major economic adoption policy is expansion fiscal policies, where we energize the private sector as engine of growth to be to catalyze or be catalyst for growth, and that we have various forms of policies that rather strengthen the private sector and they make sure that a lot of employment passes through them. That is one area they should know. in terms of even our policies too. He himself talks about the fact that in terms of compensation, there have been increases or there has been increases. What are compensations used for? The fact is that, my brother, doctor is failing to appreciate how the economic machinery works in every country. You are talking about interest payment. I am surprised. He knows that interest payments falls within the statutory arm of our expenditure in our budget, and that the interest payment cannot. It's not part of the discretionary arm of our budget framework. He knows. And this is not only under Nana Addo's leadership, His Excellency, but it is as a result of cumulative or consolidated debt that we have all incurred as a country, and that we have nothing to do but doing that. And he knows that the situation that we have gone through within 2 years, it takes a very good government. Evans, do you know that even the IMF or World Bank projections of global growth were to be negative 3.3, but we grew 0.4, beyond even the global expectation. So I am surprised that he cannot appreciate the fact that if all the functions of GDP growth that are mentioned that they were all sluggish because of the crisis, and it was global, we were able to even try to put this country in a position that the world, they are even loud enough. Go and read the executive world report from the IMF. So what he is saying, you cannot manage and adopt these things in times such as this. You cannot. It is impossible. The only way to go now is to find a fine equilibrium or balance between mitigating impact on the people and also making sure that you create opportunities for them and for the economy to grow, and make sure that in the near future the crisis will not be deepening.
Yeah, but you haven't answered the question about. You haven't answered the question about. But very quickly, because of time, you haven't answered the question about 1 million jobs.
Burden them again with taxes, but also create jobs.
Yes, but that's the question I asked you briefly. Create jobs. They say they're going to create 1 million of that in 3 years. How? Where is those jobs going to come from?
Please go and check even from the 100 billion thing we're talking about. They'll go into commercial farming for the youth who will become attractive. Engineering, ICT, government flagship programs, all these things.
So where's the money coming from? The billion
areas we are going to create jobs.
Where's it coming from?
Our policies are going to be geared towards, for instance, interest rate between 2016 and now has been reduced by about 19%, from almost 40% to about 20%. He knows this. Government, in fact, NDC's own aiding policy rate, government interest rate, is bigger than the lending rate today. So when we say we are creating jobs as a capitalist fraternity or party or government, these are all areas. But the fact is that our brothers do not appreciate these areas.
Okay. Dr. Amo, I'm grateful that you joined us with your thoughts on this matter. Also, Dr. Kaysel Atufosing, both gentlemen on the Finance Committee in Parliament. There's more on Newsnight on the mid-year budget review, including the Finance Minister announcing government decision to back a campaign to raise 100 cedis from Ghanaians to build the National Cathedral.